Unity of Houston is an inclusive church where we seek to understand and live the teachings of Jesus and other spiritual masters. At Unity, we welcome all people from all spiritual paths and every walk of life. We celebrate the diversity of our city and of our world, and we teach love, tolerance, and oneness, seeking to live in harmony with open minds and open hearts.
Wherever you are in your spiritual path, you are always welcome at Unity. Join us and discover that the life of your dreams is already within you.
Well, good morning again. Thank you so much for being with us. We are on this wonderful unfolding series on taking us back to our basics, back to unity, foundational principles. And Reverend Michael has done a great job of setting the tone of the big context for how it is that what our ideas about God are, about divinity, about ourselves, and about how that divinity infills us. Last week, Reverend Michael talked about the idea of law of mind action and how it is that our minds are connected to divine mind and how it is that we are receiving those ideas, those divine ideas. And today what I'd like to talk about is use the tools that Unity provides, that the New Thought traditions have held, as well as our Unity teachings, go into great depth about how to use tools to refine and discipline the mind so that we can create with this divine power, with these divine ideas that come through us in powerful and positive ways. Because we can also create a miss, can't we? Did I say a miss or did I say a mess? Yeah, I think it's a little of both. We can actually inadvertently and unconsciously use our power in ways that bring about situations and conditions we don't really care for. And sometimes we feel victimized by that. But the truth is, and I hope today you really feel the sense of empowerment that you really possess because you hold the key to everything. Our minds are powerful instruments of logic and reason, of analyzing, recording, evidence-seeking, and meaning-making. But when our minds work independently of our hearts, we can draw some incomplete truths that have served us in limited ways and create experiences and meanings that really confound us and that in a lot of ways limit us. As we recognize our power to create our world experience with our thoughts and beliefs, it's important to learn how to channel that power. You know, we use words to crystallize our thoughts and express those thoughts. We use words to do that, so that becomes a potent process, a potent power. We even think in words. We see words. Some of us, I know in my own mind, I actually see words across a screen in my thoughts very often. And what happens is that when we have these words that come up, these words then become emblematic for a thought. And in a way, we can sort of get hamstrung by how those words are used and what those meanings and the attachments that we have to them. Yehuda Berg is a director of the Kabbalah Center. He wrote this. He says, words are singularly the most powerful force available to humanity. We can choose to use this force constructively with words of encouragement, or destructively using words of despair. Words have energy and power with the ability to help, to heal, to hinder, to hurt, to harm, to humiliate, and to humble. Even in hearing those words tumble out, you can feel that flow because we are all attuned to how words deeply affect us and how we can choose to use them differently. The reason that they have this power is because our thoughts are actually connected in a powerful way to our emotions. A couple of weeks ago on our Wednesday night, when I was talking about our calling, I kind of gave this teaching then, and I just want to share it with you again because it becomes really enlightening, I think. It certainly has been helpful for me to make a distinction between emotions and feelings. In my previous life, I've often confused them, and I've used them interchangeably, but I've come to understand a real difference, that when I hold a thought that's positive or uplifting, I have a surge of energy that goes with it. I feel an emotion, and it's attached to the thought, and it lasts as long as I hold that thought. That when I change that thought, just as quickly, if I change to, yeah, but this is great, but what about that? Boom. Oh, my emotion goes with that, right? You can feel yourself on this roller coaster. Think of emotion as motion. Feelings, however, how I like to think about that solid sense, that felt sense in my heart that is beneath my thinking, and it is beneath the words. It is actually in a state of wordlessness. And it's a state, a place that we can tap into. It is that state of experience that is often in contradiction to the conditions around us, or to the thoughts we're holding, or to the fears that we have. I don't know how many of you have found yourself in a traumatic situation, or perhaps in an emergency situation where things have suddenly crumbled unexpectedly, and you're sort of in that numb state. And yet, people often say that even though everything was falling down around me and I didn't know what to do, I had this sense of peace. I felt like everything was going to be okay. That doesn't come from up here. That's not an analytical thought. That's not digesting the information that's coming in and coming to a conclusion. That's what thinking does. A feeling is a deep-seated connection with the divine and with our soul that brings forth the deep truth. It is the truth of us, and it is the truth we can tap into. So understanding how we're created and how we are, what to draw from and where our power resides will guide us in being able to use denials and affirmations, which are our word tools. It is the subject I want to share with you today, how to discipline our thoughts and draw our feeling nature into alignment with divine mind. What is divine mind? Divine mind is that field of divine ideas, that infinite field of possible outcomes and possible ways of expressing these attributes that we think of as divine attributes. What are divine ideas? Well, they're all those wonderful words that we talk about. They're the words that have great experience. I'll talk about that in a moment when I get to the affirmations, because the first thing I want to do actually is to talk about denials. Because denials are the way in which we release an error thought. It's a way that we align ourselves. And that when we discipline our thoughts into alignment with divine mind, it is actually what we describe as affirmative prayer. It's our way of really connecting with something greater than ourselves. Now, denials troubled me at first because I already knew the pitfalls of psychological denial, right? It's not hot. It's not hot, and I'm not in hell, right? It's denial, a sense that everything's going to be okay. It's not my fault. If only they would change, right? It's all of those kinds of thinking where I don't have power here, so I'm going to project all my blame and fear and guilt on other people. And I found that that really doesn't work at all, and that when I come into understanding the truth and see my part in it, it is in that moment that I become empowered. And so the powerful thing about denials and the use of denial in the sense that we use in Unity is that using denials to withdraw the power and the belief from an incomplete truth or error thought, such as saying, this illness that I experience right now has no power over me. Or these fears are not the truth of me. To withdraw the power from something that is happening is at the same time recognizing that the experience is real, that the facts are the facts, that the experience is happening, and yet it does not have to control me. That as I recognize that I have come to understand, especially in understanding the difference between psychological denial and unity denial, is that, in fact, if you are unwilling to see something, you can't change it. If you're not willing to look it in the eye and to fearlessly look at the whole ugliness of it or the fearfulness of it, that you really don't, you abdicate your power to be able to embrace it with something greater than whatever the condition is, because you are already greater than whatever is happening to you. And to call that into place, to call that into expression, to call that power around you is the thing that transforms your life. Now, there's two important facts about the use of denials. Important fact number one, denials are needed to heal and create new experiences. Therefore, that means you must be willing to look at that painful, difficult, ugly condition. See it in the eye. Say, I see you. To see things as they are without fear or pulling away or pushing away in order to call out the hidden truth in them to transform. Eckhart Tolle says, some changes look negative on the surface, but you will soon realize that space is being created in your life for something new to change, something new to emerge. In other words, this is a hopeful situation, even in the depths of pain, challenge, fear, hurt. Important fact number two about denials is this. When you withdraw your power from an illusion, it is best to place it immediately into a powerful affirmation of truth about the condition. In other words, if I'm experiencing an illness and I withdraw my power from this illness, I've pulled it out, I'll say, you have no power over me. And yet I'm not complete yet, right? I'm still experiencing the illness, and I haven't really found the place to place my power or to put my belief into. And so affirmation really comes into drawing upon those divine ideas that come from that divine field. And what's a divine idea? Things like joy, love, peace, wholeness, light, life, beauty. I would just say that parenthetically, any big idea that is aligned with good, that you would capitalize, that's a divine idea. So whatever it is that you need in this moment to be realized or to be expressed, it's big, it's bold, it's audacious. It's so much bigger than how you're feeling in the moment you need it the most. It has to be bigger in order for you to reach out of this small, cramped space of fear, of hurt, of pain that you've been living in, and to recognize that you are actually greater already than whatever is happening. Speaking a truth statement, using a divine idea, works with denials in this way. The experience of illness is not the truth of me. That's withdrawing my power. It has no power but what I give it, therefore, I withdraw my power from the experience of illness. And the truth is, I am whole and full of life. I draw life through my body from an infinite source of goodness and love. Can you feel the shift in that? Can you feel that even though a body that is still has the effects and the experience of illness can begin to be fortified, and the mind has started to see a bigger field. I'm not focused on the lack, on the pain, on the hurt, on whatever it is that's holding me bound. I'm not focused there anymore. I now see it in the context of something much greater, an opportunity to really heal, to come into wholeness, to come into my true birthright, and to recognize that I am not limited by this any longer. When you know your power, it is then possible to lose the fear. Bill Giovanetti says, on a family vacation, I lost my credit card halfway through the trip. I tore apart the rental car to find it, but no luck. Suddenly, labels from my childhood immediately raised their ugly little heads. Words like stupid, dummy. 5 days later, I lost my driver's license after making it through airport security, something I discovered only after boarding an aircraft and flying home. Where could it be? Did I leave it on the plane, I wondered, at the airport? And once again, the old labels practically screamed, stupid, dummy. I know I'm not, and on a deeper level, I know that I have all the wisdom from God. Paul says in Corinthians that I share Christ's wisdom. He says, I have the mind of Christ. The ugly labels don't apply, yet there they were, sticking to me like a gooey mess. My wife, Margie, encouraged me. She says, oh, Bill, you just have a lot on your mind right now. Don't worry about it. She was right. I knew those names from my past didn't apply. I am who God says I am, and God says I'm perfect in His sight. I just had to see myself that way. I smiled and leaned over in the rental car and gave her a kiss. Thanks, honey, for the reminder. Those around us definitely can see past our own fears and limitations. They do believe in us. They see something more than whatever we're going through, even when it affects them. This is the beauty of having sojourners, partners along the path, however they are, wherever they are, whether they are in your daily lives or whether they're at a distance. Call upon them. Those people who love you, who know you, can reflect back the truth of you to you and give you a leg up on breaking out of the limiting thoughts that you've been holding. Swami Sivananda says, if you think about disaster, you get it. Brood about death, and you hasten your demise. Think positively and masterfully, with confidence and faith, and life becomes more secure, more fraught with action, richer in achievement and experience. We've been taught powerful tools by our New Thought traditions and unity teachings to channel our mind power into healing and into authenticity. That's that place in our hearts where we drop out of our minds and into our hearts to perceive what is deeply true. A friend of mine, Father Gregory Boyle, is a Jesuit priest in Los Angeles, works with gang members who are recovering and changing their lives for over 30 years. He was, in his book, Tattoos on the Heart, he was talking about a homie that he had praised for one thing or another on the phone. But the guy he was talking to just wouldn't have it. You know, he says, I still have my blemishes. You see, we still have to put our Western minds in a headlock and wrestle them to the ground. We think blemishes are shortcomings. We think our continually gnarly, hardwired responses are just not proof of our humanity, but somehow of our unworthiness. Homies are particularly culpable here. In an acute gangster version of the Stockholm Syndrome, homies identify and grow attached to their weaknesses and difficulties and burdens. And you hope, in the light of this, to shift their attention and allegiance to their own basic goodness. You show them the bright blue sky of their sacredness, and they're transfixed only by the ominous clouds they see in the way. You stand there with them and encourage them to stare above and wait 20 minutes. As Pema Chodron would insist, you are the sky. Everything else, it's just weather. And so the incredible power that you have is sometimes contracted in thoughts. So I encourage you to find practices that enable you to drop out of your mind, out of the if this, then that kind of thinking. If this happened, then this must be, and look at all the evidence I have for it. The heart doesn't do that. The heart is beneath all of those things, and it is a place where you can drop down into this big reservoir of deep love, of truth, of alignment with something greater. And when you need to, call on it, and remember that no matter what you see, this is happening, but the truth is, you are more than this. God bless you all.
Thank you for watching this message today. I'd like to invite you to join us in person here on campus at Unity of Houston for Sunday morning or Wednesday evening services. If you can't be with us here on our campus, you can still join us live on Facebook or on our website, unityhouston.org, Sunday mornings at 11 a.m. Central.